Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. A lot has been made about LSU and UCLA this week and how quickly or not quickly these two teams have started. UCLA has been abysmal in the first half. They did not score a point in the first half against Hawaii. That's a joke. They only scored 7 on a late touchdown there against Indiana in a game they were getting run off the field, and they were down 14-0 in that game before 5 minutes had run off the clock. That's a terrible way to start football games, both offensively and defensively, for UCLA. And yeah, LSU got off to a bad start against Nicholls. There's no doubt about it. When you consider the opponent an FCS team and you sputter a little bit offensively and you kind of let Nicholls get moving on offense, that's a slow start. And then you saw what happened in Columbia. I mean, that was an avalanche there for the better part of the first quarter. South Carolina goes right down the field, 7 plays. They're getting 10 a play every play, through the air, on the ground. They go right in for a touchdown. You come out, you're completely feckless offensively. They come back down and get a field goal. Then you try to punt on your next offensive drive and you get it blocked. I mean, it was offense, defense, and special teams. All of it was terrible in the game to start for South Carolina and LSU. But I don't necessarily believe that this LSU team is not ready to play. I don't necessarily believe that they are slow starters. I think that you can manipulate the numbers and the scores a little bit from that perspective, because you all remember the first drive LSU had against Southern Cal, the first game of the season. You come out, the first 2 plays were both Nussmeier to Lacey 15-yard gains. You had 30 yards after 2 plays. Nussmeier hit C.J. Daniels for 5 yards. They went for a 4th and 2 and picked that up to Kyron Lacey. Continued to march down the field. Nussmeier to Lacey. You remember that first drive? I mean, they could not cover Kyron Lacey. He continued to chew up yards. They hit Mason Taylor for a big 13-yard gain. Josh Williams actually had a 12-yard run on that first drive, which was something we didn't see very much of after that. But you drove the ball right down the field and got the ball down in 1st and goal from the 8. You had it 4th and goal from the 3, and we know that story. LSU decided to go for it instead of take the points. But that was a very efficient drive. It was a very effective drive. They hit a couple of runs. They hit a lot of passes. They got their best player involved. I thought they were ready to go in that game. I can sit here and give you a bit of a pass on Nicholls. I don't want to. I don't like doing that. But I can give you a little bit of a pass on Nicholls being that spot on the schedule. And in South Carolina, you knew you were going into a Hornets Nets. We talked about that all last week. We talked about the fact that South Carolina was going to be fired up to play. They were coming off a huge win over Kentucky. Game day was there for the first time in a decade. They were going to sell that place out. LSU doesn't show up there. They hadn't been in there in 16 years. It's a big national brand. Here come the Gamecocks. Let's play. And LSU did a terrible job of responding to that, but it is understandable as well. There's no real reason why you don't get off to a good start in this game. You should get off to a really good start in this game against UCLA. They're not good. You're at home. You're coming off a comeback win. And I'll tell you, the demeanor of the guys that we talked to this week was a very positive one. They were very, very excited on offense and defense, and I think these guys are going to be ready to play. I expect LSU to come out and throw a couple punches early in this game against UCLA. The question is, will UCLA punch back? And we're talking about offense here, and I want to transition over to the defense, which also needs to start fast. There's no way, 2 ways about it. But the defense in this game, it's a great litmus test, because I cannot take anything positive if you dominate Nicholls. I cannot take anything positive the last 2 years when you dominate Southern and Grambling. I can maybe take some positives away if you can put the clamps on UCLA. Now, keep in mind, I'm not trying to oversell this. UCLA's offensive numbers are abysmal. Abysmal. There's no other way to describe it. They are number 126 of 134 in scoring offense, 124th in total offense, 122nd in rushing offense, and 85th in passing offense. That's terrible across the board. They don't move the ball. They don't run the ball. They don't throw the ball. They don't score the ball. They don't do any of it. It's bad. But I believe this is more an indictment on Eric Bieniemy than anything. And we talked about him a little bit yesterday. I believe he has dropped into Westwood and scrambled everyone's brains, because they don't know what they're doing. Ethan Garbers is a 5th-year senior who has had some success as a college quarterback. UCLA won games with him under center last year. Yes, they had one of the better defenses in the country, but they won games with him under center. He was fairly productive. He was efficient. He made things happen. He looked good in the USC game last year. Now, they're bad defense, but he's been okay. He looks terrible. Looks completely lost. TJ Harden and Keegan Jones were running backs on this UCLA team last year that ran the ball really well. They led the Pac-12 in rushing. They've got some talent at running back. 3 of those offensive linemen are back that they were running behind. Enrico Flores and J. Michael Sturdivant are quality talents at wide receiver. And they can't move the ball at all. I gave you those numbers. But they do have some personnel. And if LSU doesn't fit the runs right, or doesn't play well in man coverage, or loses contain on a zone, or miscommunicates, these guys are talented enough to make you pay for that. They are. They haven't done it to Hawaii or Indiana, but they can. Nichols did. So if you allow a team that can't move the ball in Hawaii and can't move the ball on Indiana, then you got real problems. But it's not as if they're completely feckless on offense. This reminds me very much of last year, about this time on the calendar, when LSU played Mississippi State in Starkville. You knew at that point that Will Rogers was very likely at that point to become the SEC's all-time leading passer. That's not because he's a significantly better player than Peyton Manning, who doesn't have that record, by the way, but you get the point. It was because he played for Mike Leach, but he knew what he was doing throwing the football in college. He had been doing it for 4 years. And you went up to Starkville and you're like, well, he hadn't looked great. They got a new offense. Obviously, Leach is not there anymore, and they're trying to transition away from the air raid. But he can still play a little bit. But he looked like he had no idea what was going on. That's what this group looks like. Ethan Garbers, TJ Harden, Keegan Jones, Rico Flores, J. Michael Sturgeon, all these guys under the direction of their new big-name offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, don't look like they have any idea what they're doing, which allows LSU to play on the offensive. That starts early, and that continues throughout the game. LSU looks disruptive. And if they can be disruptive, you can force this UCLA team to look like garbage. Like, that opportunity is out there. And that's what you're hoping to see in this game. Early impact from the defensive front, slow the run game down, which hasn't gotten going. They're 122nd in the country in rushing yards. Get after the passer, force some mistakes. Garbers has made them. And cover up these pretty talented wide receivers. They're not going to be first-round picks, but they're functional out there. UCLA just hasn't been able to use them yet. That's the coach's fault. But don't take any prisoners. Go get it done. We all want to believe that this defense is going to make strides as time goes on. We hoped that about last year's, and they really didn't. I'm going to hold out hope for this year because I think they're better coached. And for LSU to accomplish anything this year, to beat anybody of substance this year, the defense is going to have to take 2 or 3 steps forward. The offense is going to have to take a step or 2 forward too, but the defense is going to have to take 3, 4, 5 steps forward. They've got some youth out there that could improve. They've got good coaches who have a track record of development, and this needs to be the first step in doing that. You don't get a ton of credit, even though you were a little bit better than last year against USC. They still did what they wanted to in the second half. You get no credit for anything that went on in the Nichols game. I thought it was terrible. Awful. Brian Kelly said, oh, we stopped in the last few drives. I don't care. They're Nichols. Don't care. South Carolina? Yeah, you did slow them down. You held them to 1 yard in the third quarter because your offense held the ball for 11-plus minutes, and they put their backup quarterback in there who stinks on ice. I'm not giving you too much credit for that. Thanks for making those big plays late. Good job. But you're not getting a ton of credit for it. And this is not going to be an earth-shattering performance, but if you can impose your will on this group, that'll be a step in the right direction. And I think LSU potentially has the pieces to do that. It needs to start at the beginning of the game with the crowd in it, game plan firing, and then keep the pressure on as the day goes. I'm not too concerned about the offense. I think they'll score. I'm really not all that concerned about winning the game because I think they will do that. Let me rephrase that. It's the only thing that really matters if you win the game. I'm not concerned that LSU won't win the game. I think they will. I said that poorly, but you get the point. I want to see this defense come out and shut this veteran UCLA offense down because these are all vets. None of these guys are freshmen or second-year players. They're old guys. And if you're out of position, they will hurt you there. Don't be out of position. You're at home. You're a better team. This team is completely lost. They're probably at a very fragile piece in terms of their psyche. Just turn it up. Go get them. That's what you've got to see from this LSU defense coming up on Saturday afternoon in Death Valley. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.